everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. I'm Gary Mack, and I am joined, as always, by the fantabulous Mr. Rich Baxter. Rich, welcome again to the show.
The always awesome Gary Mack. Thank you very much, Gary. And yeah, I'm back in the studio, off the road, ready for a great show. We got a ton of things to talk about this week.
I know there is so much and big stories too. I mean, we got the Oakland A's
Yep.
moving, and we've got a questionable 10-game suspension, and just all kinds of stuff going on. So, how are you, though, Rich?
Doing good. Had a game today, so we might have been doing this on a different day, this podcast, but no, I exchanged these tickets because a 12:05 start to me,
Oh,
I'm just getting started at 12:05 on a Sunday. My
I'm
day
just
off.
waking up sometime.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily, but my day is I wanted to be a little later in the day. And baseball has its own agenda these days, as we've been talking about with the timing issues of the games, which network's going to air the game. Now, sometimes these Peacock games are being held at 12:05. So that's what's happening in Philadelphia today. So I simply made a call from my Sunday plan and exchanged it for what I think is a much better game coming up in the future. So we're doing the show on a Sunday. Happy to be here and happy to be talking baseball.
Yeah, and Rich, let's get into it because we are on a time constraint thing. The Oakland A's, you want to start with that? They've signed a binding agreement to purchase land near the Las Vegas Strip, where they are intending to construct a major league ballpark. It seems like the Oakland situation has come to an end, and they are moving out of Oakland eventually by 2027. They hope. Um, this soap opera has been going on for probably 20 years or so. It seems that long, and now it looks like it's over.
Yeah, we've heard it before, as you said. We've heard this song and dance going on for many years, back and forth. But yeah, it does appear that it's over. Um, I'm not nostalgic about the Oakland A's. I can see them move in a heartbeat. Did a little research for the podcast this morning, and they signed a binding agreement to purchase land. It's 49 acres in Las Vegas. It's right
Yeah.
near the football stadium. So if you're familiar with that area, Mandalay Bay, that area outside of the airport, it's a nice area. It's great for baseball. I think if this happens, Oakland has not supported this team. The city of Oakland, the inhabitants of the area, it's got to be moved, in my opinion, for it to survive. They've been in Oakland since 1968. Of course, originally the Philadelphia Athletics started in 1901, one of the charter members of the American League. They left Philadelphia in 1954, went over to Kansas City for about 12 years, from 1955 to 1967. And now they're probably going to be the Las Vegas A's. So I'm excited about it. I've been to Vegas a few times. It's a nice destination city for millions and millions. They'll have a nice attendance there, local fan base, I'm sure, and life will move on. Oakland A's, like we remember the A's from the 70s being very successful.
I remember I actually went to see the Kansas City A's at Yankee Stadium when they had the mule, Charlie the Mule, named after Charlie Finley, their owner at the time, right before they moved from Oakland.
Wow.
So that goes back a long time with them. Interestingly enough, and not surprisingly, the Oakland mayor criticized the announcement and is not happy about it. But also, I found this fascinating. The Oakland Raiders owner, or the Las Vegas Raiders, excuse me,
Hmm.
owner, is not happy about this, and you would think he would be happy to have another professional sports team in the area, but he's not happy because apparently there's a war between the Raiders and the A's because the A's stuck it to the Raiders in the Oakland Coliseum. The Raiders wanted to make improvements and pay for them, and the A's wouldn't allow it. And they would designate it as the primary team there. So there's some bad blood there. So that could be an interesting story moving forward. But like you said, look, they have a good fan base there. I think part of the problem was the team has been run so cheaply, and the fans just didn't come out. The stadium is really a dump. We ended last week with a story about the possum and the possum droppings living in the visitors TV booth
Yeah.
for a while there. So I mean, it's things like that. We've heard the stories about the toilets overflowing into the dugouts and things like that. And it doesn't seem like the city is going to make those improvements. So I don't know. The city says they're going to go in another direction. They're going to probably try to get either an expansion team now, but I can't see it happening after this when they really, they could have settled this a number of years ago by coming up with better plots of land or whatever you need to do, put a little bit of money in the stadium, fix it up a little bit. Um, it's a big, huge stadium, and like you said, they're just not drawing now, and it's pretty dumpy. It's turned pretty dumpy, and if they're going to use the Coliseum as a drawing point to get another team to move, I think they're going to have a long, long time trying to do that.
Yeah. Currently, they're in last place in spending in the MLB. They're at 56.8 million this year. And, that used to be a decent amount just a few years ago, if you remember,
Yeah, yeah,
$56 million on salaries. Now teams are up
yeah.
to 200 and 300 million. It's kind of incredible the way
Ridiculous.
everything's changed. But yeah, the franchise is 123 seasons old as of this year. They were last in the playoffs in 2020, and they finished in first in that division. If you remember, just a couple years ago, they had a nice team going. They had some players that were exciting, a lot of rookies that
All
they
right.
all dealt away, and some of them went on to become their own stars in different teams. But um, as you said, Oakland has not stepped up. The fans have not stepped up and supported them as much as you would think they should. And I'm happy it seems to be a done deal, even though the legislation in Nevada still has to be worked out. There needs to be an MLB owners vote on this, which I'm sure they'll have no problem. And as you said, it's a couple years in the future, but I'm excited about it, especially for people to go to Las Vegas, give them something else to do. There are some drawbacks. That it's a smaller TV market locally in Las Vegas, smaller population, but I think you're going to have a better support of the team.
Well, yeah, and I think you have to look to the Golden Knights is a great example. The NHL, and who would ever think hockey would go good in Las Vegas? But it's a big hit.
Yeah.
I mean, they are doing surprisingly well there, and of course the Raiders did well as well. So it's something you got to look at, and they're ready for big league teams, and again, it's not that far from LA. I mean, it's what a 90-minute flight or something like that. So they'll get fans
About an hour, actually, 45 minutes,
hour.
really. I took that flight once. It was like a
Yeah.
moonshot.
And
Straight
so
up, straight down.
and what about a drive? What is it? It's like a 3 hour
Couple
drive,
hour
then
drive,
2 hour
4 hour,
drive.
4 hour
They'll
drive, I think.
they'll draw from around the area as well, because those people are hungry for pro sports in that area. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on there. And I you know what I was talking about building, and it's amazing to me now they're building smaller stadiums because they want a more intimate connection. 35,000 seat stadium with a partially retractable roof, which I don't understand. In that heat, I would think you'd want a complete roof. I remember when the Mets were out there, their farm system was in Las Vegas. Um, they used to complain about working out in the heat and stuff, that it would knock you out, and they'd be tired going into the game because they'd be zapped from the heat, doing the workouts and stuff. So I don't know why they wouldn't go to I don't know what they mean by a partially retractable roof, unless part of the stadium is going to be covered, and the part that's open will have a retractable roof. I don't know. We'll have to see when they come out with that. But they're talking about building up the area. They're talking about restaurants and other things. And look, like you said, the city of Oakland. They said that the A's didn't negotiate and blah blah blah, but they've been dragging this on for years. They could have ended this years ago, and it is what it is. It happens. They have to make money, and this was the best thing that they could get.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it myself. As you said, and as we said at the start of the show, it's just been something that's been dragging on for years. We've heard from both
Hmm.
sides, the city, the team. I'll put up a little screenshot real quick of the artist rendering
Oh,
of what
okay.
this $1 billion stadium will look like, and it's pretty nice. I mean, partial, as you said, partial covered stadium, which can be covered completely or opened if it's, airy enough, so to speak, and not too hot. I think that's the perfect solution to this, as you can see on that artist rendering. And it looks
Yeah,
very futuristic, that stadium.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Nice.
right about where the Tropicana sits, if you've been to Vegas ever. And it's a perfect location. It's literally 5 minutes from the airport, if that, maybe two.
Yeah,
So,
and yeah, set and lock down the trop and
yeah. And
put in a baseball stadium.
they've been planning this, like you said, for a number of years now. So it's nothing that's brand new. It's finally coming to fruition. And what else is coming into fruition is our second story of the podcast here. And somebody's serving a 10-day suspension for a little sticky situation. I think you know all about it.
Yes, Max Scherzer of the New York Mets got thrown out of the game for allegedly sticky substances on his hand. Now he swears that it was rosin and sweat, and if you've ever handled rosin and sweat on it, he's got a good case there. It does get sticky. Now they said that it was extremely sticky, but if you watch Scherzer pitch, he sweats. He is a sweater, if you will. And so I can see where the excess sweat. The argument that I have about this whole thing is now he got, they checked the pictures, and he was told that it was too sticky to go in and wash it off. They gave him a warning. All right. He went in to the clubhouse or the dugout in front of an MLB official. In front of an MLB official, he washed. He went out for the next inning. He says, I knew I was going to get checked. He did his rosin, did his thing with the rosin and the sweat. And by the way, he was not pitching well in this game either.
Mm-hmm.
He did it again. They checked him and they said it was too sticky. They threw him out of the game. So and he said, I swear to God, I swear on my children that it's rosin and sweat. Now, you could roll your eyes and say, oh, sure, okay, you're looking for an advantage. The kicker to this whole thing is, and the suspension is that he washed his hand. He did it in front of an MLB official. Why do you have an MLB official there, for these kind of things if they're not going to stick up for the player or verify it? The other thing is that everybody's different. How do you know what works with somebody and works with somebody else? You know what I mean? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he happens to sweat a lot. His hands got very sticky. And I think his argument was they should have some sort of test, something that will test, maybe something that they can drop on his hand to check, that will register an illegal substance. I don't know, but they have to come up with something because this is not a way to do it. The other interesting fact about this is that he was the third one that has been thrown out this year for this, and they've all been thrown out by the same umpire. That strikes me as a little odd as well. And he goes on there. It was a little clumpy from the rosin. He washed with alcohol. He went back out there. The alcohol, yeah, that can be sticky too with rosin. Um that's he said it was too sticky, the umpire, and then they told him to wash it off again. It says in front of the MLB official. I wash my hand with the alcohol in front of the official and then apply a rosin and then grab some sweat. I go back out and they tell him his hand's too sticky and then they threw him out. Uh, and he says, I don't know how I got ejected when I'm in front of an MLB official doing what they asked him to do. It's a big thing. He didn't appeal because he figured that he wasn't going to win anyway. That it was not a I forgot how he put it, but in other words, it was a kangaroo court. It was set up, and he felt so he didn't appeal it. So he's out 10 games. But we're not even into the heat of summer yet, and are we gonna keep throwing guys out for 10 games? And could you imagine if you lost Zach Wheeler in the middle of August or something? There's something that they have to do about it. Again, every human being is different. You might get a guy that doesn't sweat that much, and the rosin's not going to get that sticky. You'll get a guy that sweats a lot, and it's going to get stickier. And I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but it, they have to find some common ground here because we can't keep losing players and pitchers from teams for 10 games. They've either got to, change the ban or come up with something that yes, they use legal stuff, but it was too much, so we're only going to give them 3 games or 5 games or something. I don't know. It's just now. I know it's a Met, so people are going to say, "Well, you want to see a change for a Met," but no, I don't. I think it should be changed for everybody because it's too much.
And it wasn't the first time that this
Right.
allegation was made against Scherzer.
Oh well.
We've
Yeah.
got we go back here Joe Girardi and Max Scherzer when he wasn't a Met. Girardi was incensed. He knew something was happening. Um, he complained to the home umpire, and other teams have as well. So it's something that Scherzer has probably been doing for a long time. And as the umpire said, he says that's the most rosin or substances that I've ever seen on a pitcher since they've started to check. So, uh, whether or not he was innocent of this, I don't think he was. He's got to be on a fair and level playing field with the rest of the pitchers. Either he doesn't have all these substances or he does. Obviously, he did. Um, and if he was a Philly, maybe I would change my tune a little bit. But I don't know. This wasn't the first time for him. First time he's been suspended for it, but accused before many a time. So.
Well, you can accuse anybody of anything. I mean,
Maybe
you know,
Scherzer is just getting his just due at this time. I had
well, it's
a fun
possible.
time reading the Twitter feed. Mets fans ran to his defense, but he's got to be on a level playing field with all the pitchers. I'm not going to accuse him or say anything more than what happened, but
But let's say this. Let's say that the playing field is level in that you can use rosin and and you sweat, and if his uh body just produces more sweat and he uses more rosin to control on his hand, he's going to have more rosin on than other people have seen. And if that gets sticky, it gets sticky. That doesn't mean he's using an illegal. I think the argument here is, did he use an illegal substance or not? And of course, he claims not. The umpires didn't say he used an illegal substance. That's the other kicker. They just said his hands were ultra sticky, so they were hinting at it, but nobody has come out and said he used an illegal substance.
but
They just
they check after the inning. You go to any broadcaster, if you're at the
right,
ballpark, the pitcher goes over, he shows his
right,
hands, his glove, and they check it. So he didn't pass the test. As you said, he was asked to
right.
do this, asked to do that, and it still didn't improve. So I got to give credit to the umpire for enforcing a rule. It's not Cuzzy's rule, it's the MLB's rule. And if we
Yeah,
know
but
anything
why?
about rules, there's a ton of rules in this league anymore. Red tape on top of red tape, timing issues, which I'm very opposed to, but you know, we'll see how that goes over the course of the season. But
Well, that was what I was going to get up next. But then again, so why do they have an MLB official there to watch what he did? A, why is it only one umpire that's calling these things? Three cases this year, same thing, and one umpire.
he's
It's the same
enforcing it.
umpire. So all the other umpires are letting it go. The whole thing stinks to high heaven, especially the part about the MLB official. Why have an MLB official there watching him wash his hands, taking this stuff off, watching him reapply it,
Mm-hmm.
and then going out there and look, he's not stupid. He's not going to put something on and then go back out after he knew they were going to check him.
But
And then
this
they
isn't the first time he's been accused of using substances to control a ball before. That's all I'll say. And
yeah.
we could talk about it all afternoon, but I don't think we're going to solve it.
Well, I'll just say this too. How many guys have been accused of steroids that didn't take steroids, and uh they never got caught, and he's been accused before, but you can accuse anybody of anything, as I said.
Now, Cuzzy quoted, yeah, not tacky, sticky. It sounds silly, but there's a difference between tackiness and stickiness. So, maybe he's got a fine tune of what what the rule is officially, and obviously he did because it was upheld by the MLB, and they honored it. They honored the suspension. But let's move on from there because the podcast is growing shorter with our shorter
Running it
time.
short of time.
But
All right, what's next?
Fernando Tatis returns to baseball this week. He's
Yes.
already returned.
Talk about substance abuse. Yeah, he's coming back with the San Diego Padres. He's going to be playing a new position too. He's going to be playing the outfield. A new slot for him. He came up as a shortstop, but they just signed in the offseason Xander Bogaerts, and of course they got Machado, who's been out with some back issue, but Tatis coming back as an outfielder. And it shouldn't be a big transition because he has been playing it in spring training and now in this rehab assignment or whatever you want to call it,
Yep.
while he was on suspension. So, he was allowed to work out with the team. He was allowed to go through a rehab assignment,
Hmm.
and he was allowed to go to spring training. So um, he's had time to adjust to the new position. So it's good for them. But the Padres have been a bit of a disappointment, Rich. They've struggled this year mightily so far, and it's interesting. The teams that have not struggled and the teams that have coming out of the blocks, if you will. And Padres, one of them. Dodgers are struggling; they're 500. Arizona playing well, and Pittsburgh playing well so far. But we'll see how long that all lasts as well.
Yeah. Tatis Jr. coming back after an incredible 564-day absence from baseball. As you said, he was suspended for an 80-game suspension for PEDs, but his other problems has been off the field. He's been in a number of minor accidents involving a
Yeah.
motorcycle
Mm-hmm.
in Dominican Republic. So he was asked by a reporter originally about the accident and the major one, quote unquote, that injured him, his wrist. And he said, the reporter asked, when did it originally happen? Tatis replied, which one? So this guy needs his head examined. He's got a $500 million contract from a baseball team. If I'm that team and I'm that owner, I'm going to be a little mad at Tatis, and I'm wondering why the Padres didn't have some sort of clause in his contract for him being an idiot, because that's what I think he is.
Well, I agree, but this is the same issue with the Mets and Robertson Cano. There should have been there should be a clause that if you get suspended, that the team has an option to dump you or whatever. But they're never going to do that. The players' union's not going to agree to that. I think it should be in a standard contract, but
I do. I
they're
do.
not going to do it,
Sure.
and
I
the
mean,
owners are not going to.
especially with the kind of money these guys are getting now.
Yeah,
It's not $100,000. It's not $1 million. We're talking
right.
multi millions. These people are
Yeah.
becoming ultra rich over this ball game that they're playing, and they can go out and fly a kite, jump off an airplane, with a parachute if they want. I don't get it. I don't
Well,
understand
I
that.
think there are some things in the contract that are stated, like some guys can't play basketball, and they're not allowed to play in the off season. Some, I'm sure they'll put maybe a clause about not riding a motorcycle in his. He may already have it. There are contracts like that. So again, I think they should make that into the standard contract. No motorcycles, no this, no that. But I don't know if the union would go for that. And like you said, a lot of money. And talking about a lot of money, did you see who got dfa'd by the Arizona Diamondbacks? Madison Bumgarner, the big star for the San Francisco Giants in their World Series runs there. He has been DFA'd by the Arizona Diamondbacks. He signed a 5-year, $85 million deal before the 2020 season, and he struggled in his 4 years with the D-backs, posting a 5.23 ERA over 69 starts. And they turned around and just said, well, we'll pay him a salary, but we can't have him anymore. We got young guys knocking on the door, so he's been designated for assignment, and the D-backs will eat more than $34 million remaining on his contract. Think the
Good,
Phillies might go after him, pick him up?
good for them. I think they deserve it. No, I don't think the Phillies will pick him up. They're signing a guy that's well past his prime. The Phillies did it with Jake Arrieta. He was the biggest bust that came down Broad Street for the Phillies, and I'm sure the Mets have too over the years, and other teams that we're not on a daily basis with. But yeah, I blame the Diamondbacks on that. You sign a guy, you expect him to be great like he used to be, like an Arrieta, or name your other pitcher that used to be great, and then he gets old and he can't pitch anymore, and that's what you get. You get, somebody that you didn't expect. But tough on them, and they still got to pay him, so we'll see how that shakes out. Who will pick him up? That's a good question going down the road. If anybody, who wants to pick up that contract?
I think the Mets are going to pick him up. They're not picking up the contract.
Oh, they're
if he clears waivers,
uh-huh.
you only have to pay him $720,000 only.
Oh.
The league minimum of $720,000. You do not have to pay him the contract. That's why he'll clear waivers. Nobody's gonna pick up the contract, like you said.
Right.
So they'll let him clear waivers, and then they can get him on the cheap. And I think if you can get him on the cheap, personally, I'm bringing him in. Especially the condition of the Mets pitching staff right now. I'm bringing him in and seeing if you can get a little something out of him reasonably well. Maybe move him to the bullpen even. They could use a lefty out of the bullpen. So we'll see how that all plays out. I'm going to say the Mets or Texas even. I could see Texas making a play for him.
All right, we'll have to see what happens with that. We'll roll through the standings real quick while we only have a short time left in the podcast. Tampa Bay continues to roll out there in the Bay Area. Undefeated at home, 12-0 as we're doing this podcast. Baltimore doing a great job as well. Minnesota out in the Central holding a couple game lead over the Cleveland Indians.
Yeah,
that's going
a
back
close
and
one.
forth. And Texas out in the AL West with Jacob deGrom. I think he's pitching today. I think I picked him up for one of my parlay bets. So why don't you take the NL real quick before we run
out? Atlanta and the Mets are banging it up in the NL East. A half-game difference. Milwaukee and Pittsburgh a half-game distance. Pittsburgh being the surprise team there. Hopefully they'll see if they can keep that up. And out west, they're all bunched together. Arizona and LA and San Diego are all within a game and a half of each other or so.
Very good. Well, thanks for listening to this edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show.